Welcome to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference, empowering the good. And we love having important conversations centered around leadership. And in this case, leadership, empathy, technology, all woven together. Here with us is Aubrey Wade. Aubrey is an Agile Consulting Manager at Nexient. She's helped convert 2 Fortune 300 organizations, their technology departments into agile work environments. She's an Enneagram facilitator, a conference speaker, and she coaches teams for continuous improvement and team health. So Aubrey, how are you doing?
Hello, doing well. How are you?
Doing good. So we get to talk all about empathy, leadership, Enneagrams, and so much more. But let's start with a little bit of your backstory, because you have a cool story in terms of majoring in psychology, but working in this field of IT. So give us a little bit of your personal backstory.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So I graduated from Arkansas Tech with a degree in psychology and moved to Memphis, and just kind of through a series of fortunate or unfortunate events, however you want to call it, wound up in tech. I started working at one of the manufacturing sites here in Memphis, and kind of through circumstance, wound up working, doing inventory management and becoming a super user for this company. And they wound up saying, like, look, you either need to give up your access or go into technology. And I wound up going into technology. And just through that series of events, I wound up just becoming a business analyst, and then just through my progression going into technology. So I wound up working for St. Jude and going into the Agile workspace and just building my knowledge, learning that all this time I had been working in the Agile workspace through just Kanban and continuous improvement, and not knowing that I was doing Agile, this Agile process the whole time. So I just started building my knowledge of doing, just continually honing this Agile process. And then I started realizing that Agile is a lot of people. And I was like, well, my degree's in psychology, and I really love people. And I got into, psychology because I wanted to realize, why do people do things the way that they do? And that was the whole premise of me doing that, because my raising, I had a rough childhood. I mean, and most of us do, right? We all have our story. And I wanted to make people better. And that is how I also, that's what got me into the Enneagram, because I wanted to find my right seat on the bus. And so anyway, long story short, it's all about helping people do good things. And within tech space, the whole Agile process is, you don't want to over process, but you don't want to under process. So it's finding that, that good meet in the middle, but it's also helping people just do good stuff. So you want to do the right things for the right reasons in the right way. And, when you converge all of this together, you have to have empathy, right? So we say meet people where they are. And that's why I say the crux of a lot of this is just having empathy with leadership. And Agile really is a lot of that all rolled into one.
I'm glad you defined Agile, because I was going to have you define that for everyone who doesn't, who isn't in that world. So that's good you've already defined it. And I think it also speaks to your point about the continuous improvement in team health when you look at what you do on the larger scope. And like you said, it's about not only making the company better, but the people better. And
right.
So when you look at empathy and how it's playing a role within the IT space, and I think, when I look at empathy on the city building side, we have to have empathy to better understand each other, to connect with each other, to build those relationships that lead to create transformation within lives and families, but also our city. And I think when you look at in the IT space, having empathy also kind of ties into artificial intelligence and where we're headed with trends. And so talk about this world of empathy and leadership, but specific to the IT space that you're in.
So I'm doing a lot of executive coaching right now with the clients that I'm with. And it's like, I tell people all the time, because they're like, well, if I just add more people or more teams to get this job done. And I'm like, look, You can add 30 teams, but if you don't have good planning and you don't know what you want, it does not matter how many teams you add. You need to put a lot of thought into understanding what does done look like. So when you're, building AI, that's great, but what does done look like, right? And so understanding, if you're wanting to build AI, so what's the end game? And is it scalable? Is it going to converge into this? Is it going to converge into that? How are people going to access it? Is it consumable? Are you building for access? And it's also, I'm asking hard questions and like, speaking truth to power, right? So I'm also trying to be empathetic to my executives that I'm speaking to, right? I'm trying to get them to think big picture at the same time, but also I don't want to kill my employees, right? The answer is not work 80 hours a week, right? So, we have these really hard conversations. So, for example, the client that I'm with now, we've been having, when I started working there about almost a year ago, it was last March, we were having some really rough days, my friend. We have a really big group there, and it was rough. Like there's no secret, but even in the last few days, last few weeks, like stuff is really rocking. We were really turning stuff around, and it's not without like tremendously like we've put in a ton of work, but it's because we're having these very, very, big conversations of, look, like here's the cost of what you're asking people. They're killing themselves. They're doing stuff like just like hammering code to get it out the door, but at what cost? Your tech debt is rising. You're not scaling because there is no process, and that's not the answer. Let's do the right things for the right reason, the right way, and make it scalable so that you can just continue to build on it, so that you can build good stuff and good stuff and good stuff. So it's like having these very difficult conversations to make you really, really think. That in essence, it helps. Because again, I know that I'm not here for long term, right? But again, like it's me, I'm not the answer. The people are the answer. And it's putting them first, right? So that they can do really good stuff to sustain. Because that's the end game. It's them, and it's their product, and it's them doing this stuff for the good. So it's being able to put them in their shoes. It's me saying, hey, executive, you need to be thinking about them. You need to be thinking about your product. Are you thinking about your customers? Are you thinking about your ADA? Are you thinking about, are you coding for, your handicapped employees? Are you coding for, saying like, you got to be able to have these difficult conversations. So, I know I'm like rambling.
Well, but everything you're talking about has empathy as an underpinning. When you look at the understanding, putting themselves in the shoes of the employees for the executives, putting themselves in the shoes of the customer and understanding the end game, putting the ADA compliance, like all of that revolves around this kind of foundation around better understanding each other and having empathy for each other. Right. Talk about how that plays into Enneagrams. First, describe what Enneagram is, and then let's talk about how that plays a role in this.
Sure. So the Enneagram is, Enneagram is Latin for 9, right? So 9, Ennea 9, and then diagram. So the Enneagram is an ancient it was an assessment that came from the ancient times. The ancient monks, they would at some point, you would go to them and say, I want to understand blah, blah, blah. At some point it came to the United States back early 1900s, and it was again being shared. So I was given this by a mentor of mine when I was trying to find the right seat on the bus for myself, and I fell in love. It is just really about self-discovery. And then I like to use it for team dynamics and team building exercises as well, so that you can learn how to work with each other better. So one of the biggest challenges that I find when I'm working within teams is just basic communication, right? And so and some of the examples that I was sharing with you a moment ago is a lot of the stuff that we were finding with is just basic communication channels, right? Of just having basic understandings of just communicate with each other. So with the Enneagram, sometimes we just have a very hard time communicating with each other because we just have basic personality differences. And the Enneagram helps us to understand and have these very reflection times of, if I am an 8, the 8s are, they call them the challengers, or, depending on what website you go to, they have different names. So if you are like the Enneagram, I'm going to go Google that, please don't. Or if you do, have an open mind, because you are going to get hung up on it based on your number type. You're going to get hung up on it. You're going to be like, I'm an 8. And you're just understand that, please, if you would like, I will give you my website, and you are welcome to reach out to me. And I would love to walk through an assessment with you and help you to discover your number. So there is a lot of information that you can derive from your number. So if you're an 8, you're a challenger, and there is a beautiful information about 8s that are great about challengers. So like generals in the Army can tend to be 8s, and they are protectors, and they just can go out and they can go do. Now there are good and bad in every number. So don't get lost in the bad. Don't get lost in the good either. There are good and bad about every number. So if you're an 8, you can be domineering, and then you're not going to be one to back down from a fight. Okay. But if you are, let's say a 7, actors tend to be 7s. You're the entertaining optimist. Everything is awesome. It's Legoland, right? Let's go on a trip. Cool. Let's go. Where are you going to go? Dallas? St. Louis? Cool. Let's go. So you're just like fly by the seat of your pants. I'm chill. Let's go. So it's just like sometimes it can be just basic communication, just based on your number. So, and if you're a 2 in the Enneagram, you tend to be known as the supportive advisor, or the helper, right? They are always there, want to help, very supportive, loving, giving, give you the shirt off their back. 2s also tend to be the worst at self-care, right? So at 7s, as we were talking about them a second ago, they tend to be the worst at being on schedule, right? It's just the way it goes. So anyway, so the Enneagram within leadership. So if you're the manager of a team, knowing someone's Enneagram number, if you have like a cheat sheet, you tend to know how to manage really well when you know their number. And again, with empathy, if you are a manager, this helps you to be able to understand them better. And I like to say, whenever I do Enneagram coaching, and team, with this team building exercise, I like to, tell, with great power comes great responsibility. And you are able to know how to coach and mentor them and lead them really well, because you know what their vices and their virtues are, and you know how to help them and manage them really well. So it helps you to just have to lead well and to love well, I like to say.
Yeah. And I think that plays into, it's funny you say and love well, because I was going to say it's a little bit like the love language. When you know your spouse's love language,
oh man,
you can make that connection. And if you don't, you're missing a powerful opportunity to understand what motivates them and inspires them and make a deeper connection. And I think anytime you have a chance to do some self-reflection and do a self-assessment and better understand what makes you tick, and then the empathy of what makes others tick, to be able to connect with them, that's where the real power of leadership and empathy collide, in terms of being able to understand and make that connection, and the communication then to really get people motivated to do what needs to be done to be productive and be happy, and all of those things that center around a relationship. So
for sure.
Mention for sure your website and where people can go to learn more and connect in with you. And then let's talk about just an example of how this plays out. So go ahead and mention your website, where people can go to learn more.
thejourneyofdiscovery.net is my website. And I have on there a good, it's a listing of what I do. And then it also has contact information of how to get a hold of me. obs11@gmail.com as my email address. Always welcome to reach out there. And then I've done several team building workshops And then I've also spoken at conferences. There's some of my favorite times, right? I've done a couple within Memphis as well. They're so much fun. I've never had anybody not like them. So they're a joy, and they're just so successful. So you'll definitely have a great time with those.
Carry that forward then in terms of how this plays out in terms of like a workshop, a seminar, some of the takeaways, or for you going in and doing one with a team. Give us an illustration of just kind of how this plays out and leads to better leadership, better understanding, better empathy.
With those workshops, the teams will discuss, like, we spend a lot of time getting real with each other. So I like to say, like, what we learn here, we make a pact, like what we learn here stays here. And with leaders, I'd like to spend some one-on-one time with my leaders, with the managers or leaders that are with the team, to really do some coaching with them, some mentoring. And we also have takeaways. So you get like one-sheeters on every number, so that the people can really do some self reflection and introspection on themselves. So that everybody will get one. So it's almost like you get a one-sheeter on each other too, right? So the 8s will understand what the 2s and the 1s and the 4s and whatever. So and we do, it's like a 3-hour, you can do a 3 or a 5-hour session or whatever it is that you want to do, because sometimes, especially with software development teams, you can do like a whole day session if you'd like, because we can do product road mapping, or even if you want to do like a whole day retro, if you have something that you really want to dig in with your team, if you're having some team dynamic issues. So I've done that with a team before. So it just depends on what you would like to do together. So because I love to build and help people build healthy teams. So it's just something I'm passionate about, people. So I really love helping people get to good, healthy places. So I'm happy to, if someone would like to dig in on that, I'd love to connect with you and just see what that looks like for you and your team together.
Give me one of your favorite bits of advice. And I know obviously it's going to vary depending on what number they are and who they're working with. But in general, what's a bit of advice for leaders who want to be more empathetic, who want to become stronger leaders? Give us one of your favorite tips.
A little goes a long way. A little empathy will go a long way, and nothing is impossible. So especially with a client that I've been working with recently, I thought that one person could not make a difference. And the only thing I can tell you is the impossible is possible. So it's, just meet people where they are, and just don't assume, assuming, what they say about assuming. So don't assume that you know what you think you know, and just listen. So just taking a time out, I do what I call empathy tours. So I will, especially when I'm going in and trying to make an assessment. So I'll do an empathy tour, and I'll go in and just act like I'm stupid and I know nothing. So just tell me what's going on, and I will take all sides, right? Because there's his, hers, and somewhere in the middle, right? Or what, whatever. So I will try to get every angle of every perspective of what's happening. And then usually you're going to find out, like, there's this perspective and this perspective and this perspective and this perspective. And then you're going to actually see, like, there's a lot of assuming happening. And there's a lot of, well, I thought they did this and they did that. And so I did this and I did that. And then that's why we got to where we are, right? And which is just, whew. And so now we need to undo the layers, and now we can finally start getting somewhere. And unfortunately, people start making decisions that they can't undo, or people leave. And, and then now we need to try to backtrack. So I just start where you are, meet people where they are. And for managers, just start, you got to start somewhere. So start at the beginning and try to go from there. And
Nice.
Get help, just get help. Don't try to do it by yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Wrap up with contact information again. So website, social media, phone number, where do we go to connect with you and learn all the good stuff you're doing?
For sure. I'm on LinkedIn and you can get all my contact information on LinkedIn, Aubrey Wade. And I'm connected with Jeremy on LinkedIn, so you can definitely find me there. Aubs11, AUBS11 at gmail.com, thejourneyofdiscovery.net. You can find me there as well. And then I'm on Instagram, 11obs. You can pretty much find me anywhere. I have the same picture everywhere as well.
Well, Aubrey, thank you for all you do. Thank you so much. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you again for having me, friend. I'm so glad to connect with you again.